Let's just review the facts. Lam and Zayin Amud Aleph one more time. So we're all on the same page, including Tamir. Okay, all right. So I'll try. I don't know if I can explain all the terminology, but okay. So the Gemara before Rav Chia, the Gemara ended off with what? Right before Rav Chia, the Gemara says we're not sure if smicha, right, if putting the pot next to the kira, if that is like kima, meaning it would be problematic if it wasn't gar pakatim, or is it not like it? Okay, so the Gemara doesn't resolve that. It's an ibayalahu, right? We don't know. The Gemara doesn't. Sometimes the Gemara will tell us. In this case, it doesn't tell us. So the Gemara says, well, let's turn to this other brisa. So what does Rav Chia say? He says, what's the case? He did katima, it failed, and then what? So the Gemara says, somchin la u'mekaymin aleya v'noli imena u'machzirin la. So it's very simple. The brisa says snomchin, mekaymin, notlin, v'chozrin. Okay, and the assumption in the Gemara and the brisa is that you required katima for that, right? Because it says katma but failed, meaning I had to do katima. So therefore, you could deduce that smicha requires katima. So far, everyone should be like, yes, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, but the Gemara says you can't do that. You can't say that. Why? Because you'd have to say, therefore say Natila requires katima. All right, and that can't be. There's never a havmina that Natila requires katima. Why?
Because katima is just removing. You're not.
You mean Natila?
What did I say? Natila is just removing.
Right. There can be no hesech hadas required for removing something from the fire.
Well, then removing it is hesech hadas because you're not cooking anymore.
Well, it's one hesech hadas. It's not cooking. I mean. You're right. I mean, but who cares? I'm saying it's not cooking. Okay.
You would set up as 4 categories. I think right off the bat you have to say those are Natila on a pre-existing pot in a location.
No. But what's the Gemara? If you just said that there's no big svara here, just conceptually, okay, simple, right? Obviously, how's the Gemara treating these 4 things? You can only ask this kasha based on one assumption.
They're not equal.
No.
It's not the same.
Right, meaning they're independent. There's the first step. The Gemara. This is methodology of Gemara.
Oh.
The Gemara is telling you this is not about. This is not in understanding smicha per se. It's more in methodology. All the Gemara is telling you right now is that if you're going to tell me you could deduce katima from smicha, right, you must say that by all these other 3. Meaning each one of these is independent from the other. Okay, each one is its own concept. Smicha has nothing to do with kima. Kima has nothing to do with tila. Tila has nothing to do with chazara. But that can't be because if you do that, this will make no sense. In other words, if you're going to deduce katima from smicha, you must apply that same deduction to natila. Okay? Now comes the move, before you define it. The move the Gemara has to do now, it has to flip. It has to flip. Because you can't tolerate natila requiring katima. Right? That's impossible. Right? You cannot say natila requires katima. Right. It's impossible. So what does the Gemara do? The Gemara says, maybe we'll say, just to read the Lashon, the Gemara says, you'll say like this. You'll say Shma Mina. I'm sorry. You'll say Elatana. This is how you read it. Nolin Mishum Machzirin. Hachanami Tana Somchim Mishum Makaimin. So we know beforehand that Netil and Chazar are related to each other. Do we know how they're related to each other? No, not yet. But we know they're related to each other. So since there's a precedent where these 2 relate to each other, let's assume these 2 relate to each other. But here's the key point. You have to get this point factually. Okay? If Netila, if we were saying smicha relates to kima, just like Netila relates to chazara, okay, let's match it up. Netila gets ktima or not?
No.
But chazara? So what would that mean by smicha?
No. It does not.
Okay, so at this point, this would help the other side, right? The other side is saying that smicha does not require ktima. Getting that out of the way, I just want to make sure that point is clear, okay? With that point being clear, now the question is, how do we compare these 2 relationships? Okay, and then the move the Gemara asks on it is, 1 second, you can't say smicha is related to kima because Netila is related to chazara because of chad makom, right? I think some of the guys already got what that meant, but it's chad makom, meaning Netila, when I take it off from the top of the kira and I put it back onto the top of the kira. But here, there's not chad makom. Kima's on top, smicha's on the side. So the question is, what does chad makom have to do with anything? Why do we care? Okay, so this is really methodology Gemara right here. Okay, what's the comparison and what's the breakdown of the comparison? You're asking what is the? Okay, so you're saying they're related via process, but what is it? I don't know. Actually, I would say no. It's not about the process. I think that's what's going to be here. But what is this? What is this? How do you forget even the Netilah Chazara? This relationship here, okay? In other words, smicha does not require ketima. Kima does. So how would you learn the relationship? I think it's a simple move.
Smicha has a direct.
Come on, I've laid out all this stuff, man. Yeah.
Smicha has a direct relationship with fire. Kima also.
But then both will require ketima.
Yeah.
We know that's not true. Yeah. Always remember what our objectives are.
Well,
Hesek hadas.
Kima with ketima doesn't have a direct relationship with fire, but smicha with or without ketima is still going to have a direct relationship.
So then they're the same. Then they're both require ketima. But we know this. We know here no ketima and this ketima. Just like here no ketima.
So it's not really a relationship, but they're very different.
We're learning deriving one from the other. No ketima. No ketima. Yeah.
Smicha is the side of the.
He's saying that. Look. In other words, I agree with what you're saying about Natila Chazara. That's fine. But what's happening here is like this. The objective here, there are different objectives between this and this. Correct? Because remember, here we're not worried about what? Hesek hadas. There's no idea Hesek hadas here, but here we are worried about Hesek hadas.
We're worried if you need Hesek hadas.
That's what I mean. You need Hesek hadas. Okay. So what he's saying is good. In other words, like this. So you would say like this. Smicha, the relationship between the two is the production of Hesek hadas, is the expression of the break between the guy and the cooking process. Okay? Remember, going back to that original point, the guy and the cooking process, right? If that's the case, smicha, I think what the chiddush is like this. Smicha, I'm going to go in this order, okay? Smicha, there's a natural Hesek hadas built into it by the fact that it's next to the HaKirah. That's a natural, intrinsic Hesek hadas. There is no necessity of doing what? A maisa, right? I think that's going to be my location. There's no maisa needed because by definition, there's not a maisa to put the pot next to it. Its location by definition is the Hesek hadas.
Like or kaj.
Right, but by kima is you need a maisa to produce a Hesek hadas. So these both are talking about expression of Hesek hadas. What they share in common is they're an expression of Hesek hadas can emerge. The question is it natural, right, via the location, or do you require maisa? So that's
even though the location. But then
wait a second. What? The reason? Can you be quiet? The reason why the Gemara is bringing the second brisa in, right, is because there is no logical way to answer this. You can't use logics to answer this. You're stuck going. Just wait. Let me finish. You're stuck going to another brisa. In other words, it's not that the Gemara didn't know about the other brisa. I want to get this point out first and then work backwards. Of course, the Gemara knew about this other brisa. Does it play a little bit of a trick? Yeah, because it says read it as son kama. Okay, and then everything can work out. But the problem is the Gemara is checkmated. It can't work out logically. You've got two logical possibilities here. You have this or this, and it can't tell me this one is a preference over the other. So the Gemara will do this quite often, where you have two logical possibilities. One can't be proven logically to be superior to the other one. Then we go to another brisa, and the weight of the second brisa will therefore reinforce whatever assumption the Gemara wanted to get across. Okay, with that said, yes.
Neither one is different. 2 and 3.
I agree. No, it's ultimately what's Natila. Ultimately, Natila, in order to make it into one, okay, you guys aren't saying differently. You think you are, but you're really not. The difference between what you're saying by causal, right, versus what he's saying, is really ultimately comes down to one thing. Natila is a step in this process. Okay? In other words, when you say that they're intrinsically related, but what's the nature of the relationship? It's that this is the first step in this process. Can't say that here. So the Gemara is saying this. The Gemara is saying there's two ways you can establish a relationship, right? You can either say there's one conceptual core that has two different expressions, but there's a core, or you could say no. You look at it insofar as the process is concerned. If we're looking at the lens of the process, well, process here, Natila is really one step in Chazara. It's the first step. You can't say that here.
Yeah, it would make no sense now to make those a different type of relationship.
I agree, right, for sure. But you can't apply that here, okay? So that's the Gemara's moves. It's beautiful. I mean, but this is, again, you understand what I'm trying to say about Gemara methodology? What the Gemara is trying to tell you is that it's a cool thing. You can, if you do B'kiyas, you can miss this whole thing, okay? What the Gemara is telling you is that we want to, forget this overall issue. We want to see if these two are related. So there's one way we could establish a good relationship conceptually, or do we look at it so far as the process is concerned? There's two logical ways to establish a relationship. But the Gemara says no. It has no answer. So what does it do? It pulls the old missing fact. Oh yeah, there's another brisa. Of course the Gemara knew about that brisa. It knew that brisa all along, right? But it's bringing it in because it can't resolve this. There's no logical resolution to this issue.
Didn't bring it in earlier?
What? But then because what the Gemara is trying to show you is it's trying to show you when it comes to relating these phenomena. There's two logical ways you could do it. That's the beauty of Gemara. It's trying to show you. I mean, think about it on a conceptual level. This is beautiful. It's showing you there's two ways these phenomena can relate to each other. They can relate with the conceptual core, or they can relate insofar as the causal process is concerned. Those are two logical ways that these halachic concepts can relate to each other. That's the idea it's trying to bring out. You're right. It could have gone from this to this. I'm trying to show you why these steps were put in to bring that idea out, even though we reject it. There's no practical effort, no practical document whatsoever. And by the way, let's just add one more point. Even with the Bryce at the end, let me just read it inside. Even that's a little bit of a push. The Gemara has the right to do it, but look, the Gemara says what? What's that last Brysa? It says Kira Shishikua Begavas of Eitim Somchan La Kama Ve'emek Kaiman Elim Ken Grufa Ketuma. So what's the Gemara doing by bringing up that Brysa? Okay, this is one little nikuda that I want to get out.
Is that really a weird way of reading it?
It has to be.
No, I know. I'm saying, is that weird? I feel like I would have read that way.
What, without the comma?
No, with the comma.
Okay, I know, but what's it trying to show you, ultimately? You're right, we know that ultimately it's going to come back and justify this Brisa, but there's one other little point to bring out. What? Oh, okay, in other words like this. In other words, it wants to show you, the way you read that Gemara is, it wants to show you that they are two processes, going back to the original point, there are two processes insofar as Shehiyah is concerned. They are. Smicha and Kima are two methods within Shehiyah. Kama, but they're not related to each other. You understand? They are still next to each other in the Brisa. There's still some relationship between them because they are part of the overall category Shehiyah. But that Kama is telling you, halachically speaking, don't treat them identical. Whereas Natila is really can be looked at as one step in the process. You understand? So that's that Kama the Gemara is putting in. So now watch. With the second Brisa, go back to this. So how do you read this Brisa now? So he says what? He says, it's great. I mean, you gotta love it. It's like they took these pens out and just filled it in. It says like this. It'll be, you did Ketima and it failed. Somchan law. Now how do you read Somchan law? No, okay, well how do you understand Somchan law?
Somchan law, which is part of the same category but has a different halachic consequence.
Right, or that's the conceptual way. The Bekias way is Somchan, right, Somchan law, like this smicha. You understand?
But that's what's called?
Not Ketima.
That's Sept.
I know, that's how you have to read this now.
But we said it takes kata and it's
I know, so he's not this, put the words in, mechzer.
possible.
It's the only way to read the Gemara.
What?
Because
No.
that, yeah.
Maybe you say we don't like the
It follows
No,
Ketima.
the Gemara doesn't do
It
that.
follows Ketima, I'm saying.
I know, but that's the thing. You have to. Well, there's also the other fact is we don't know. We haven't defined yet about the failed Ketima case. I kept telling you it's going to play a role, and we have to go back and understand that.
Why are we going back to Isaiah? Why don't we say
So,
we're-
just as a preface, moving on to the next case, we're going to start talking about mitztamak v'yafalo. Let's make sure we get that term right. Tomorrow's Tuesday. No, I think Wednesday. Wednesday, Thursday. I don't want to do more than 2 days. Why, you want to do Rosh Hashanah tomorrow? No, so this is the last thing I want to do. This little thing here. What's mitztamak v'yafalo?
Because then it gets better.
Well,
You will
no.
get better teeth.
Yeah, be more accurate than that. What?
You will-
Mitzvah v'yafalo means what? It is
able to be next door?
right, but what state was it in?
Edible and good now.
Oh, okay, right. It's edible, good now, and by keeping it on the grill, whatever, what's going to happen? It's going to get better. Okay. Do we know if that's objective? Well, you want to say that. Do we know if that's objective or subjective yet?
No.
We don't know. We don't even know.
But if it's edible, how can that be subject?
Because you could argue. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Hold on. We'll get to that. Just to let you know, if you're excited about this, there's a three-way machlokas: Reb Haigom, the Rif, and the Balmor. Yeah. Okay. Go. About Mitzvah v'yafalo.
Amr gets up Bar Nachmania Revashia. Gets up Bar Nachmania said near Revashia. Tama v'Haivara. Mashin Allah Chamin.
Stop. Okay, so again, we're back to our favorite case. What happened? I did Katima, and what happened? It failed, right? In other words, the ashes no longer are there, okay? Which doesn't sound so crazy. I put the ashes on, and the fire, whatever, consumed the ashes, whatever. Point is that whatever, I did the Maisa Katima, but there's no physical evidence of it anymore.
But nourish so that you read it.
What does it say? It says Mizbashal Kol Tzorcha. What does Mizbashal Kol Tzorcha mean? Let's get our terms
All
right.
it means it's edible.
Right. Okay. Now we're going to use edible for now. We'll call Machal Ben Drusai, but you could argue that Kol Tzorcha means it's
The best.
well, if it's the best, then it could be Mistamak V'yafala.
Right. So it can't be the best.
Right. So but it's definitely edible. Okay. I'm being vague for a reason. Just relax.
Something like that.
What?
Something like Sept, like,
Well, Rashi already gives away. No, look at the last Rashi. Shehuchmu kol tzorchan. He's on the ball. What does Rashi say?
It's
Don't
not.
go back much.
Right. So you're not worried about chitu. So all we know about kol tzorcha is one thing for sure. You're not worried the guy's going to stoke the coals. Okay. So you can argue for now. It sounds machal ben drusayish, right?
Well, we suggest it.
No, I would stop the cold.
Could be one soaked because he wants.
Okay, good.
All it needs.
I wouldn't serve that to
No.
after food.
All right. Keep going. Let's go.
Shmami nam sam gavale.
Mutter. All right. 1 second. So why is shmami? Okay. Let's make sure you get just the bikias deduction. What does that mean?
That means that you see from there that you're allowed to put something that's edible, but still able to get better on a failed couple.
Right. Okay. So a lot of moving parts here. Okay. I did katima. Okay. So I did the Maisa katima and it failed. Right. It failed. What does the Brisa say? Rav Oshia says that what am I allowed to do? I can put a food on it that already is edible. Okay. If I could put my rare steak on that fire that had a Maisa katima done, right? What's that proving to us? That mitztamav yavlo is mutter. Right? Because the steak is rare, and putting it on the fire is going to do what to it? Improve it. Look at Rashi. Mistamik.
Stomach.
Yeah. Mismait.
It's my vikayets.
You don't have to read that word. It's Old French. Keep going.
Like sudden spanking. My sha'ata and merbelashan sibo in it staba merbelashan sadek and sadek benkol.
All right. So it's a grammatical thing. What's he saying though? So mistamik means what? I mean, literally, what does it mean?
Strength.
No.
Strengthened.
Well, it has to do with moisture. They're talking about a specific process. Yeah, it's about. I think it means it'll get more. It'll remove the moisture. It means remove the moisture. Point though, I don't care about that specific thing. The point is, it's an improvement. Okay. Mutter. What does Rashi say?
Lasha is an HaKirah. Jushia and HaKirah.
Right. Now look at it. He's going to explain to you. It's an elo. Right. Okay. So now. Okay. So if we're not learning, just follow logic. If we're not learning, the chiddush is that mitzvah for yafalos mutter. And what was the point of Rav Oshia's brisa? Right. Because what does Rav Oshia say? He says if the food is edible, I could put it on the fire that had katima done. Well, 1 second. What's the chiddush then? Of course, you could put a food that's edible onto a katumed fire, right? Well, don't say that yet. You'll see why. There's a reason why. All right, but for now, of course I could do that. So what must it be teaching you? That by putting it on, what's it going to do to the food? Improve it. Is that kind of clear?
So why are we ignoring the Katsima aspect?
What?
Why are we ignoring the Katsima aspect?
Because the Gemara is about to tell us that. That's why. Watch. Finish Rashi.
You must view a havamina in its own right.
Ella. Now listen to Rashi carefully. He's on the next daf. The top Rashi's. He's in Rashi. Mutter, yeah. Right, right, but what's his point? His point is that that's a big chiddush. Because, well, I shouldn't say that. What would you have thought? You would have thought that mitzvah v'yafalo is what? Could be a problem, right? But the fact is, since it's nispashal kol tzorcho, we're not worried about chitui. Meaning, it's edible.
Is that Machman Shai?
Well, for now, we're going to call it machal and so that's why is it chananya?
So this is kaka.
Yeah, it was customs. Yeah, it's customs. Okay, you don't believe me?
Why does it, if it cut them, why does it matter?
What?
So this
Cut them, why does it matter?
If it's custom, why would what matter?
Why would anything matter?
Oh, great question.
So this argument.
Okay, why? That's a great question. If the thing was customs, okay, and the thing was customs, so why is mitzvah v'yafalo? Why is mitzvah v'yafalo? Why is that a chiddush? If it was custom, why should you be concerned the guy's going to be do chitui?
He's arguing for Chananya.
You say that.
Why?
No, Chananya.
Chananya holds you don't need gar for custom at all.
Make a deal. I'm saying you need.
Go on. The Gemara never says that. Nor does Rashi, nor does any Rishonim. Go on. Next point. That was terrible. Keep going.
Arch Kevin, you say.
No, it's not. Go. If it does, I'm going to burn it. All right. Go on.
Whoa.
You heard what I said.
In the Gemara.
Yeah. It's on tape.
That's a little bit overboard.
It's never overboard.
Shiny Hafa de Kakma.
Oh, 1 second. So what does that mean? Shani hacha katma.
You can't learn out the case. That's not Kakma.
Well, Rashi. Shani hacha katma.
So
So if he did katima, what's that telling you?
that
The gully daite de lo nicha le b'tzmuki, right? So meaning what?
What's Bismuki?
Mitznamek. All right. So what does that mean?
Is that a different idea than
I mean,
Hezbollah?
so the fact that he's
Why?
stopping the cooking
Seems
process.
like a more.
What?
The fact that he's slowing down the thing, he doesn't want it in better. He's showing that he doesn't want it in better.
Okay.
Well, Hezbollah could be just be not involved in the cooking. Here it seems to be.
Don't
involved
start
in
trying to
non-cooking.
define yet. Hold on. Keep going to the Gemara.
You have to be mind member, so why?
Ah! Now comes the issue. So now comes what Yaakov was hinting to. 1 second. So if it's just an issue of Katima, then why have this fancy case of a failed Katima? In other words, if Katima is the issue, why do we have? What's the importance of mentioning that this is a failed Katima?
It's bigger.
Oh, so the Gemara says simple.
I would say I came in HaKirah, the most like
Where
it says, since it failed.
Of third line to fourth line of the Gemara. Mao desema kevin huvara hadrala lemilsa kamaisa kamashmalan. So what would you have thought? This we have to define also. You would have thought that if I do Katima and it gets evaporated or whatever, it fails, then what? It's as if I didn't do anything. Kamashmalan, it's good. Two things to define. This is like spoon feeding
They're
city.
laying out both.
What?
They're laying out both in one case.
Oh, yes. So you have two things to define. One is our first introduction to the Mistamak V'Yafalo, which is you would think that what? That you can't do Mistamak V'Yafalo, even if you did Katima. Kamashmalan, you can. And this is a whole new category now.
Maybe only it's failed. It's
No.
only Chiddush because it's failed.
No. I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah.
How do you learn
No,
both?
it was-
You think that's a maybe?
How do you learn both at the same time?
What do you mean?
Maybe you're only allowed to do Mistanic Below.
When? Can't be when it's not Gar from Katam. That's impossible.
Right.
Right? Okay. First thing to define, Mitztamak V'Yafalo. What is that teaching us? Second thing to define, Fail Katima. What's that teaching us? You got your assignments.